So just wanted to give you an audio version of this assignment sheet as well, because I have so many students who, like to hear things, out loud as well in their learning process rather than just reading them. Okay, so the most important thing that you realize about this essay is that you want to turn in your first finished as possibly can be finished version on September 4th. The final grade that I'm going to keep for this essay, they're going to be averaged together. And the final revision is due the 20th. So you want to try to do as good as job as you can on the first one. But, if you don't do so well, don't lose heart, because, I will either use the revision grade, the second grade, as the final grade, or combine them both together. Usually I use the second grade. I haven't quite decided yet. But okay, so here we go. This is a 900-word essay, and it should be in third person. The reason why it should be in third person, meaning no I, no you, no we, no us, third person means it's just about what you're describing, is because this essay is not about you. It's about what it is you're describing. And most of the writing that you're going to be doing for the rest of the college is going to be not about you. So you got to get in the habit of writing third person. The simplest way that I can tell you to do that is to put the subject of whatever it is you're describing, make it the subject of the sentence that does the verb. So for instance, if you're describing, where you come from, like what your street or your house is like, then you don't talk about my house, I did this, I rode my bike, blah, blah, blah. You would discuss, kids ride their bikes down the street. You discuss what it is that you're describing. You make it the subject of the sentence, make it do the verb. Now, the goal of this essay is that you're trying to capture the spirit or essence of something. And what I mean by that is the true nature of something. For instance, like television is, an inanimate object. It doesn't move, but yet it has a profound effect on us in the world. So defining its true nature in defining and describing, a a TV goes beyond just describing as a, black flat rectangle. You have to describe, its true nature. What does it do? Okay, and that goes for any example that you might use. So, for instance, if you're describing a place, you want to describe, not only what it looks like physically, what it smells like, what it sounds like, what the food there you may taste like, what you may hear there, or what you may feel in terms of, weather, whatever. But you're also describing the nature of that town. For example, Macon, Barnesville, and Atlanta, and New York City are four very different places. They each have their own kind of spirit or essence. So besides the five senses and describing what something looks like, you're trying to capture its true nature as well. That's really the whole point of the essay. The five senses and those descriptions are all building towards that. So if you are having trouble with an idea, then you can use one of these topics. But I got to warn you, whatever you do choose, it needs to be something concrete. Inevitably, one student in every class is going to be like, I want to describe love, or I want to describe hate. And, I tell students, for a descriptive essay, that's not really good. It's that none of those essays ever do very well in terms of grade, because those aren't concrete objects that you can hold in your hand. You go, what color is love? What does love smell like? It's not, well, don't answer that, but it's not something that works well in a descriptive essay, because it's, can only be described in abstract, emotional, and philosophical terms. Okay, and it just doesn't do well for these kind of essays. Excuse me, got the coughs all of a sudden. All right, so one popular example of an essay is describing, a place. What does Jamaica look like? What does Paris, France look like? What does Barnesville look like? What's it smell like? What do you hear there? What do you see there? What kind of people there? That type of thing. And what you have to remember, though, is this isn't a report. You're not giving statistical information. You're trying to capture the spirit or the heart of the place. So remember that. Sometimes you can describe a person, but sometimes people get too personal. They start talking about a relationship with that person instead of just focusing on the person themselves. So be aware of that. Okay, so I've got a few examples for you here. So it needs to be an MLA format. And if you don't know what that is, just Google MLA format. Purdue OWL pops up, tells you exactly, what the essay should look like, and I have that for a link for you in D2L anyways if you need it. But it needs to be 12-point font, Times New Roman, double space, in MLA format. You got to have your name at the top left of the screen, my name, the class, the date. The essay needs a title. Okay. So again, I've got some possible essay topics for you. But when you write this essay, you need to remember this. Even though you're describing something in your introduction, it has to have a thesis. And your thesis, what you're trying to prove for the descriptive essay, is you're trying to capture that true essence, that spirit, that core of whatever it is that you're describing, like New York City, the city that never sleeps, for example. The idea that New York City is so populous and active that there's always something going on. Maybe that would be a thesis statement. Cat Williams described Atlanta as a place you can go to have your dreams come true, or you can get shot at a stoplight. Maybe that's your thesis statement. I don't know, but you need to try to capture the essence of whatever it is you're describing. Also, true and strong pick details that really capture what you're describing is what makes or breaks this kind of essay. For instance, in a poem one time, the example that I use here is that I wanted to describe like a really country backwoods character, and so the detail that I came up with for him is that he held this pocket knife like a harmonica and shaved the skin off his heels like the calluses and then fed them to a hound dog, And many of you might, when I teach this class in person, several people often cringe and look like they're going to puke. And that's exactly what I'm trying to get with that strong detail. The core of this essay is number 3. You got to try to use all your 5 senses, and we're got a writing exercise to help you do that. Now, number 4 here, you may use a basic structure with intro, body paragraphs, and conclusion, transitional sentences between body paragraphs, main point sentence at the beginning of each body paragraph, whatever, the 3-point thesis with 3 body paragraphs. But to be honest with you, now at the college level, we're trying to go beyond the 3-point thesis with the 3 body paragraphs. We're trying to pack as many points as we can to an essay. So a body paragraph may have, some complex ideas. But that's the basic structure, and as we grow as writers, hopefully we'll move beyond the simple 3-point thesis and have a little bit more, complex essays. Okay, number 5, the big pitfall here that you don't want to do is you don't want to write a personal narrative essay, a story. You don't want to tell a story. This is not a story. All you're doing is picking one thing and just describing it. You're not telling the story of it. Okay, and that leads to number 6, which is why this should be third person only. And we're going to look at 2 example essays that are descriptive essays, and you can see, even though they have a narrator, you only have like first person I in there once or twice. And they're, pieces of literature, which is why they have that. So, your essay should be completely third person. All right. Okay. Besides the 5 senses, you can also use a simile and a metaphor. For instance, in one of the poems that we're going to look at, it's about this jar of cherries that this kid wants to eat that's in a refrigerator amongst other stuff that doesn't look that good to eat, like boiled potatoes in a Ziploc bag, for example. And he describes these cherries as being out of place, and the metaphor that he uses is they're standing out like strippers at a church social. And you could probably see that strippers in the fellowship hall dancing on the table, probably a little bit out of place for church. So sometimes a simile and a metaphor can do really good. And going back to kind of what we said about the TV earlier with number 7 and number 9, sometimes you can also describe how something impacts or interacts with the world around it, and that helps you reveal a little bit of information as well. Sometimes describing the opposite of something can help, as well. Things like TV, book, whatever. Okay. So we have at the end here, a writing exercise to help you, as well as a writing exercise I'm going to post on D2L. And then these following steps here are what you do, in your revision process to help you catch a few common mistakes that freshmen have. Now, I've also included a very loose outline to help you pre-write for your essay, where it kind of breaks things down for you in two different styles, and to show you, how you can kind of formulate, your essay and kind of build things together. And I have two different versions. And this isn't like a fill in the blank and then you just kind of type this up and this is your essay. This is just a way to kind of organize ideas. Ultimately, you're going to you're going to organize your essay as well. But this is just to help you get your thoughts out and help you get them in some kind of order that you may kind of move around and use when you make your essay. So I hope this video was helpful, just kind of going over the assignment sheet. And this assignment will be, you will be putting this in, when you go into D2L and you have, you choose this class, you have these buttons that say content, assignments, discussion, you will choose assignment. And then you'll see it in there.